Happy Halloween, everybody. I hope everybody had a safe time trick-or-treating tonight and got plenty of full-size Snickers from me from the rich neighborhood. But when I recorded this episode 5 months ago, I knew I was going to save it for Halloween. Tonight's guest is Mr. Ernie Pack, he had recently resigned from his position about a day before this show was recorded 5 months ago as the former PR manager for Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Yes, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Uh, Ernie is a founder and owner of Pac-Man Paranormal. He and his wife Denise and a couple other associates are helping to restore and preserve a haunted area called Fort Duffield, an earthen fort in West Point, Kentucky. It's host to tons of paranormal events and even Bigfoot sightings. I even got a sweet T-shirt for Fort Duffield. Check that out. Save Fort Duffield. I don't know if we're saving it. I think so. But it sounds like something that should be saved, so save Fort Duffield. He also lives in a very haunted house called Ditto House Inn. His wife told me some of the different things that happened in there, and I don't know. Excuse me, I don't know that I could even stay there, so I'll take her word for it. But after this episode aired, about fast forward to last weekend, I met Mr. Pack, Ernie, and his wife Denise, and their two best friends, Todd and Leanne Eskew. And it felt like I'd known them for 10 or 15 years. They felt like family. I could hang out with them all the time. Very interesting people. It was just an incredible experience, and I could not wait to air this after meeting them in person. I couldn't wait to air this. So Ernie, Denise, Leanne, and Todd, if you're watching this, thanks, and I hope that this episode and last weekend's convention isn't the only time we can hang out. I'm sure it won't be. For everybody else, happy Halloween, and enjoy this deep dive through Waverly Hills. This is a good episode. Thank you.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste.
What's going on, everybody? How we doing tonight? Got Ernie Pack, the former PR man for Waverly Hills in Kentucky. We got co-host Andrew, as always, holding down the fort, color man. Our favorite Gator graduate. We'll forgive him for that. What's going on there, Ernie? I was going to ask, why'd you remove your resign your position over at the Waverly Hills, but you told me this morning.
Yeah, just recently left that position. There's some changes that need to be made up there before I feel comfortable supporting the place. There's a guy taking the building in a direction that I don't like. He's directing it more toward the horror movie and haunted house direction, and I have too much respect for the spirits there in the building to support that. So I walked away for now.
Do you think that'll ever be resolved, like as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think he'll be removed sooner rather than later, because there are a lot of people who feel the same way I do about what he's doing, and I'm pretty confident that the board members up there will see the writing on the wall and do the right thing.
That's such a, I don't know what you would call it. I don't want to say douchebag move, but it's kind of in that, because why in the world would you want to make Waverly Hills Sanatorium a haunted house attraction? It's the most haunted place in the world. What are you doing with your life?
It's kind of trivializing it, right? Like,
exactly,
people died. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying make it a memorial or anything, but like, it's like a legit place where stuff happened.
Exactly.
All the ghosts are like on Gladiator. Are you not entertained?
Right.
What do you want from me? There's a literal body shoot.
The guy that's doing this, his business is horror movies and horror cons and haunted houses. So he basically sees it as a way for him to make money off of the place and exploit the place for his own purposes.
I think there may be a way to do that tastefully.
Yeah, tastefully.
The horror movie kind of, a con would be kind of cool there if you kept it if you had if you took the horror movie people and brought them in there and that's where you came, and maybe you didn't go in there and just, for lack of a better term, piss all over the place. Desecration.
Right.
But
well,
as far as, yeah.
We've done things like that there. We've done things like that there in the past. Mm-hmm. We've held a haunted house there during the Halloween season every year for the last 20 years or more.
It had the little theater in there.
A lot of people had an issue with that, but what a lot of people don't realize is that Waverly Hills opened on October 20th, 1926. The first event they had for the patients there was a 2-day Halloween party. And it was carried on every year. They had a Halloween party and, celebrated Halloween at the hospital when it was an active hospital. So, the haunted house was just basically carrying on that tradition that started back when the building first opened.
Yeah, and from what I was reading, like a big focus of the staff back in the day was to keep all the patients in good spirits, keep their morality up.
Absolutely. Hence the body shoot.
Like keep entertaining. Yeah, hence the body shoot.
Yeah.
That's maybe what this episode's called now.
Almost like a Soylent Green situation, but not quite fully there.
No, it wasn't anything like that. They just, that building,
out of sight, out of mind kind of situation.
Exactly. Yeah. The building had these huge balconies where the patients would be wheeled out to get their fresh air and sunshine treatments. Well, those balconies overlooked the main drive up to the building, and those patients out there they're trying to keep their morale up, trying to give them confidence that they're going to beat this and survive. Well, if they would see hearse after hearse after hearse coming up the hill to pick up dead bodies, that would be bad for morale.
Yeah.
So they decided to take the bodies out a more discreet way, and they sent them down the tunnel, down by the railroad tracks at the bottom of the hill. And that, that's how it became known as the body shoot. And, they'd never be the wiser as to how many people were dying after they started doing that.
So wasn't also like the supply chute as well, like used for other stuff, utilities?
That's what it was originally constructed as. They just, saw that they could utilize it for that purpose and maybe help keep morale up. So that's what they started doing.
Was it an actual chute, or did they it looked like a big ramp with stairs, like stairs on one side and a ramp.
That's exactly what it was.
Chuck them, right?
No. That's when people hear shoot, that's what they like, a laundry chute or trash chute. It's like, here comes Fred.
Right.
No, that's not how it was.
They have the tube and they just throw the trash down and it just goes.
Right. Down. No, it wasn't like that. It was originally a maintenance tunnel. There was a ramp on one side that had rails, and there were like little mine carts that rode on those rails, and they'd be pulled up and down the hill by a pulley system. Mm-hmm. Well, when they decided to start using it to get the bodies out, they made a gurney that would ride on those rails. They would put the body on the gurney, lower it down, an orderly or a nurse would go down with each body that was sent down. It was done very respectfully. It wasn't anything like what people might imagine when they hear body shoot,
So there's probably remains there, right? There probably nothing was taken out.
Well, the building was pretty well gutted when it sat abandoned back in the 80s and 90s. People came in and they stripped the copper. They took anything of value that they could get their hands on, because it was, it wasn't secured very well, and it was just a big empty building with all this copper and all these medical supplies and things like that, and just cool memorabilia. And so the building got stripped of a lot of it. But we've got the owners have a lot of the original equipment and devices and things that were used there. And it's, it can still be seen when you go there. Mm-hmm. But
I'll tell you, my favorite fun fact that I read today was that it was almost going to a hotel. They almost made it into a hotel.
That is technically the long-term goal of the WHHS still.
Can you imagine?
Oh.
It's going to be like $140 million project at minimum to make that happen. So it's probably not going to happen in our lifetimes, because the building brings in a lot of money, but nowhere near that much.
So they're still trying to do it.
That's still the long-term goal of the WHHS as a nonprofit, and with the way that everything was set up when they set up the nonprofit and the 501c3 and the National Registry, all of those factors put in together, they had to have some type of plan of development for the property.
Yeah. So
and that was the
not just
one
maintain condemnation.
Yeah, exactly. So that was their ultimate goal, and that's still the stated goal, is to preserve and restore the building to that end. But I don't know that I'll ever see it happen.
Yeah, that's kind of the wink, wink, nudge, nudge for the paperwork.
Yeah, you got to show some kind of progress toward that goal each year, because they do have people come in and check it out to see what you're doing to it. And it's just so expensive that there's just not the money to make it happen anytime soon.
Imagine if they did it when they originally tried to do it, like what was like the 20s or something, or the 60s. When was it when it quit being a sanatorium?
It went from a tuberculosis sanatorium that closed in 1961. Yeah. A year later, they reopened it as Woodhaven Geriatric Center. And it was basically a catch-all for everything from people with serious mental illnesses to people who were just old and infirm to people that their families just were embarrassed because they had a stuttering problem, or maybe they were gay, things like that. They would lock them away at Woodhaven, and it was open under those parameters until 1981, when it was finally shut down by the state because they were abusing and neglecting patients.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
They were stripped of their funding because of all that and had to close.
I wonder with those patients if there's ever any, interaction. Well, those patients could very well be part of the spirits as well.
Absolutely.
They seem to. That's just as traumatic as the TB days.
Exactly.
If not more in some ways.
I tell a lot of people that, most of the spirits that are actually Waverly spirits from the days of Waverly Hills, they're very gentle, they're very kind, they're very loving, easy to interact with, no problems. Where you find the grumpier ones typically come from the Woodhaven days, because those people, a lot of them weren't right in the head, first off, and second off, they were mistreated. They were angry. And they were forgotten. I mean, there were literally patients locked away on the 4th floor, chained to beds, and just left neglected for days at a time until, state inspector came in once, or fire inspector actually came in once and found patients in that condition with like feces piled up in the room and no food, nothing. And those people are just basically forgotten. They were forgotten, locked away, and ignored, and they've got a reason to be grumpy. I would say
that's much worse than just not downplaying an epidemic. Being Doc Holliday a little bit. Exactly. At least those guys are kind of coddled and made as comfortable as possible, almost like a giant, like a hospice facility.
Exactly. Yeah, it was. I mean, they had social events for the patients.
Yeah,
they had access to meals. They had shelter. I mean, the place was beautiful. I mean, marble floors and mahogany wood fixtures, and I mean, it was beautiful. It was a state-of-the-art facility in 1926 when it opened. And this was during the Great Depression, when a lot of people didn't have a pot to piss in. Pardon the phrase.
Oh yeah.
So they were living their best lives in a lot of ways.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's people doing better than everybody on the street.
Yeah.
Was it true, Ernie, that they it was like a closed ecosystem?
It was a
like post office, farm. Like they didn't have to open the doors really to do anything.
Yeah, if you went to work there, you basically were sentenced there. You had to live on the property. It was an entirely self-contained community. Had their own water supply, their own power supply, their own mail. Post office,
real life Hotel California.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can check out anytime you like. But it was built on top of that hill out in an isolated part of Louisville, Jefferson County. It was the highest point in the town, because they thought they'd be the most access to the fresh air and the sunshine, of course. And it was the patients were kept away from the rest of society, as were the employees. And, you know, a lot of the stories about things that happen with employees up there, I think, stem from that isolation.
That makes sense, because you're just sitting up there. That's almost like fraternization waiting to happen.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know about the closed ecosystem thing. That's wild.
Yeah, that's what was crazy. I saw some documentaries and they were like, I was like, what the? But it was TB, and that's like super contagious. Like,
it was called the White Plague.
Yeah.
You know, during that outbreak around the turn of the century, that was the label that was put on it, was the White Plague, because people's skin would get very pale, and most people that caught it died, and it spread fast. When you came in contact with somebody with tuberculosis, odds were you were going to catch it yourself.
Well, how would you, like, why even try to treat it if it's so contagious? That's
they didn't want everybody to die.
Well, I'm just saying, like, isn't it like a death sentence yourself if you're a nurse or doctor working with it?
That's how a lot of people felt, and that's what's, you know, why I feel like those nurses and doctors and people up there were true heroes, because of the danger that they faced taking a job there. There's an entire wing on the first floor that's that we call the nurses' wing, and it's called that because a lot of nurses and doctors caught tuberculosis themselves, and that's where they were treated, and a lot of them died.
The one with the kids that stayed there because their parents were in there, that's what got me. I was like, oh my God, your parents got it and you're here and you're going to get it because you're here.
They had an orphanage up there, or a children's dormitory for children that lived there. That was basically an orphanage, even though their parents might still be alive. They're inside the building. You know, the whole family was quarantined there. You know, if they determined you were exposed to a family member that had it, you were sent up there too, whether or not you had it. And it was a very large facility with a lot of buildings at one time. You know, that building that's standing right now is only one of about, I don't know, close to 30 that were there at one time.
So was it tuberculosis? Did it have like a 2-week period like COVID did, or is it like once in, you're always in?
Well, they had, from my understanding now, they actually had a halfway house where if you were deemed cured or symptom free, they would move you halfway down the hill to another dormitory where you'd be observed for 2 weeks, or I think it might have been 6 weeks actually. And if you were then deemed still cleared, you could be released back out, you know, to go home or whatever.
That's probably the exception.
Yeah.
Until they had the vaccine or whatever.
Yeah, the antibiotics.
Until the streptomycin cocktail came around in
What's
the
crazy
40s,
is there's people,
late 40s.
There's people I knew growing up, including my own father-in-law. You know, I grew up way out in the sticks, North Alabama. Like I grew up basically in the 30s via the 1980s. Yeah. And people still were carriers of TB still back then.
Yeah.
And they still are right now. Like my father-in-law is still alive. And he's a carrier.
Yeah.
Just from that outbreak.
Yep. Yeah. It's that disease is still out there.
You can't even get blood.
Yeah. People ask a lot of times on tours, you know, if they can catch TB. And, you know, the first thing I remind them is that, well, Waverly closed as a TB hospital in 1961 and was another medical facility for 20 years after that. So I'm sure it's been cleaned really well since then.
That and the elements,
but,
you know.
But tuberculosis can only live without a host for like 30 to 60 days. You know, so if it was on a surface or something without a biological host to help it stay alive, it would die within 30 to 60 days. So there's no danger of that.
It's not the disease that it was then right now anyway.
No. I mean, it's you know, I know of people who've had tuberculosis in recent years, and I mean, it's not much different than COVID. You know, I mean, can be fatal, but as long as it's treated properly and you're not suffering other comorbidities or whatever, you're probably going to be okay.
The funny part about this whole thing, just me kind of like pulling back the curtain, fourth wall before I do like a show. I'll kind of fanboy out on the person and the subject matter. just if they have a website or I'll just, I'll watch the highlights and stuff. And doing all this, I had a core memory unlock. And I'm like, wait a minute. When I was in 5th grade, we got a letter in the mail over the summer that said we got exposed to tuberculosis. And we had to go in and get the little pinprick and, come back in a week. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what the hell ever happened with that? I just happen to remember. And I'm asking friends who had tuberculosis. We're in 5th grade. Where they been?
Is it the 3 pins or the 1 pin?
It's just a giant pin, like in the 4 of your arm, just 1 pin.
Yeah, and it makes it swell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they look at it.
I said, what the hell ever happened with that? We just went back to school, tuberculosis? Who was that kid?
Yeah.
It's just
should have been taken out back and shot.
Yeah.
What's just a damn minute, Doc Holiday? What are you doing hanging out in the lunchroom, you lunger?
Right.
Find somebody under a mosquito net. We'll know who it was.
Yeah. Get off my seesaw.
Dude, it was like an hour of my life today. I'm like, who the hell had tuberculosis? No one ever came back and filled us back in. I'm going to put it in. What I'm worried about is going to be some unfortunate child that was had something else wrong with them, and I'm going to make myself look like a dick. I'm willing to risk that because I was like, wait just a damn minute. Nobody ever came back and
you never heard the results of that.
No. I asked another one, our friend, he goes, hell yeah, whatever happened with that?
Yeah.
It became like a scandal again. I remember my parents flipping out when we got that letter in the mail. Like I thought it was funny because just looking at that and I perked up like a Manchurian candidate.
Isn't there more like kind of something like TB coming back? Like there were some viruses.
Polio.
Was it that?
Polio and measles.
Yeah, I think it was measles. Something that we thought we took care of, and then it's come back as a new strain.
California, because of all the illegals.
It's coming across the border. Yeah, that's the word.
Unvaccinated and probably making a new strain kind of situation.
Yeah,
and those Filipinos, they're bringing it to us.
We fly. We fly. We don't swim.
Excuse me, sir.
Well, that's your argument's invalid, Bobby, because over half of us are nurses.
I love that. We would catch it right off.
Yeah, we catch it right away.
And they all smoke, so you don't know who's coughing and who's not.
Right.
Let me ask you about because I don't, like I told you, I don't want to go super duper into Waverly Hills because you're just trying to avoid promoting it as much as you can. But what about the spirits there? Like, you have any that, I guess, I don't want to say for lack of a better word, by name that were familiars?
Absolutely. There's a book being written by my wife and I that one of these days we'll actually get time to finish. You see this tattoo?
Mm-hmm.
502.
Room 502 at Waverly Hills. One of the most famous stories of Waverly Hills is about a nurse who was found hanging outside of room 502. And one of the stories that's been passed down about how that came to be was that she was having an affair with a married doctor. She had gotten pregnant. He broke off the relationship and she got depressed, gave herself an abortion or had an abortion, and then hung herself outside of room 502. And that story never made a lot of sense to me for a lot of reasons I could go into if you want to take the time to do it. But anyway, it never made a lot of sense to me. What's that?
I said, oh, yeah, we have time.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
As much time as you need.
Well, like we talked about earlier, if you went to work at Waverly Hills, you were quarantined there. It was like a prison sentence in a way. And you could very easily catch tuberculosis yourself and die. Nurses back then, you're talking about a woman in the workforce in the 1920s and 30s. Okay? Women in the workforce, even if they were nurses, they were not treated very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I told you about the body chute, a nurse or an orderly would walk down with each body that went down the body chute. Well, that was an orderly's job, but the orderlies were men. And walking down the body chute is not a problem, but walking back up is. And the orderlies a lot of times were too lazy to do it, so they'd have a nurse do that job for them. Now, nurses in 1933, when we think this happened, they were lucky to bring home $25 a week.
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a high paid job. It wasn't a well respected job. Nursing wasn't really all that well respected until like after World War II is when it kind of came to the forefront as actually a heroic type job. So, I thought about all those things. Then you throw in the fact that the 5th floor of Waverly has 2 dormitories or 2 wards. One of them, the one, if you're looking at room 502, the one to the left of 502 housed patients with tubercular meningitis, which is basically TB of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that typically affected young adults and children, just like common meningitis does today. The other ward housed children 12 and under who had stage 5 tuberculosis, the sickest of the sick kids. So these were the most precious patients, in my eyes, in the building. Now, a nurse who took that job under all those circumstances, in my opinion, she had to really care about the people she was treating. And it never made sense to me that she would hang herself in plain view of those kids, those really sick kids.
Yeah, traumatize them.
Yeah, it just never made sense to me that someone who sacrificed so much to help them would do that to them. So anyway, I made it a point to investigate that story every chance I got. I got a whole different story through paranormal investigation that I can't verify with any real records or anything. A lot of the records of Waverly are gone thanks to floods and various other reasons. But I got an entirely different story. One night, it was June 20th of 2019. I was giving a tour for a group who had a private investigation. And we got up to the 5th floor, and I told them the story that has always been told about the nurse having the affair and hanging herself and everything else. And for some reason that night, I said, but I really don't think that's what happened. If you'd like to hear what I think happened, I'd be glad to tell you. And I look over at this woman, and she's sitting there nodding her head like, yes, please tell us. So I tell the story that I'd gotten through paranormal research. And she's sitting there grinning and shaking her head, yes, like she knew what I was going to say before I said it. And so after the tour, I pulled her aside and I said, what do you mean? I mean, you seem to know what I was going to say. You knew Sarah's story before I told Sarah's story. And she said, well, I've been coming here since 2009. Once, sometimes 2 or 3 times a year. And I'm a nurse. I'm a mother. And that story never made a lot of sense to me either. So I researched her and I investigated up here every chance I got. And I got the same story that you just told with EVPs and various means through paranormal research. And so her and I started talking more about that. And we started communicating after that night, trying to piece together more parts of Sarah's story. And to make a long story short, we wound up married like a year and a half later.
Oh, that took a twist.
Yeah. And it's all Sarah's fault.
The best research project.
Yeah. Yeah. So we both had these tattoos, and that's kind of an honor, to Sarah. But Sarah's story starts out like this. In 2009, one of the first private overnights that I hosted, I had a group of guys in the building. It was 3 guys that had rented the building for the night. Just them and me were the only people in the building. And I had told them the other story about what had happened to her. And I went downstairs and let them go about their business doing their investigation. A little bit into the night, they came down and got me and said, we're not having a lot of luck. You want to come up and help us up on the 5th floor? I said, sure. So I went up there, and they had all their equipment laid out right under where I showed them that she had been found hanging. And they were asking questions like, why did you kill your baby? Who was the doctor you were sleeping with? Things like that. And They weren't getting anything. And I was sitting there just listening and thinking about it, and it just didn't feel right to me, I said, guys, can I speak up now? And they said, sure, go ahead. And I sat down next to the elevator door there, and I said, "Hey, my name is Ernie. I'm going to be spending a lot of time up here with you, and I honestly don't feel like the story that I tell about what happened to you that night is what really happened. If you'll help me, I'd love to tell your story, and I'll tell it to everyone I come in contact with up here, but you got to help me. Can you just tell me your name?" And, I'm waiting for something to light up, or, them to come back later with an EVP, something maybe. But it wasn't 2 seconds later that we all audibly heard a little tiny female voice from right outside of room 504 that said Sarah.
Audibly.
And, I about pissed my pants because
That's serious.
I don't care how long you've been doing this. When you ask a question in an abandoned building at night in the dark, that's a haunted place, and you hear a disembodied voice from 15 feet away, that'll make you jump out of your skin a little bit, But we all clearly heard it and changed the line of questioning, started getting some reaction on the devices they had. And that led to me going up to that very spot every chance I had from that moment on up until I recently quit there, and having conversations with Sarah and piecing her story together. And her story is basically that she was the youngest kid in her family. She was the runt of the family. She had an older sister that she adored that caught tuberculosis and died at the age of 15. Sarah watched that happen. She decided then, when she grew up, she wanted to be a nurse. She wanted to work with kids who had tuberculosis. She got that opportunity. She went to work at Waverly Hills. It was a dream come true for her. She was very small, very soft-spoken. She was 22 when she started there. And they put her to work on the night shift on the 5th floor, working with those really sick kids, because they felt like she was a perfect fit. She was small like them. She was very soft-spoken. It'd be a good fit. She loved it. It was heaven to her. And I know that because I've asked her many times, "Why aren't you in heaven?" She said, "This is heaven," or "This was heaven." And,
Wow.
That kind of makes my skin crawl every time I think about
Yeah.
some of those EVPs, that I've gotten like that. And anyway, one night she's alone on the night shift after she'd been there for 3 years. So she was 25 years old. She was a virgin until that night. She's alone in room 504. Another staff member had come up the steps. He didn't use the elevator because she never heard a bell, because the elevator had a bell on it. And, I kept getting EVPs for a long time that would say, "No bell, no bell." Sometimes I'd come across an obelisk and it would say "no bell," like NOBEL, like the Nobel Prize. So I went down this rabbit hole of looking for maybe someone from Waverly or associated with Waverly who had won a Nobel Prize for medicine or something, And then one night it dawned on me, maybe she means no bell, like 2 words. She didn't hear a bell. And I said, "Do you mean you didn't hear the bell from the elevator?" And I got a real clear EVP back that said, "Yes." Like, wow. I've been trying to tell you this forever. You could hear the exasperation in the voice. And so anyway, he comes in the room behind her. He attacks her. She tried to fight back. She didn't want to scream. She didn't want to wake the kids. She was too little. He was too strong. He got what he wanted. That's a phrase that many teams have gotten over the years. And somewhere in the process of all that, he hurt my neck. That's another phrase that a lot of people have come back with. Hurt neck.
Hurt my neck.
Yeah.
Oh.
They covered it up. They lied. Help me. Help me. And that's Sarah's story. And that's the story I told to my wife, Denise, that night. And she had gotten almost all of that. Now, there's some pieces of that. This wasn't like one conversation. This is over the course of 12 years.
It's like pieced together, chip by chip.
Yeah, you get a piece of the puzzle and you go back the next chance you get and you ask another line of questions based on what you just got, And anyway, we started doing a podcast. It was on Paranormal Warehouse for a while. and it was a very popular podcast on Paranormal Warehouse.
Oh,
And
you
we
think?
would tell. What's that?
I said, you think? I bet it was.
It was.
I don't know how it didn't make number one.
It was the most popular on there most weeks that we were on. But we would tell Sarah's story from time to time, and we'd have other teams from all over the world that, had been to Waverly that would, send us messages and say, hey, we got this, we got that, and they would help us fill in some of the blanks in Sarah's story. And that's basically what's led to the story I just told, is a collaboration of 30 plus teams from all over the world over the course of going on 20 years, just getting bits and pieces here and there about what really happened to her.
So to clarify, hurt my neck meant the hanging.
We don't know if that meant that he strangled her or somewhere in the struggle, maybe he broke her neck, and then, what better way to cover up the rape and murder, strangulation or neck breaking of a little tiny woman, and a virgin at that, and to say she had given herself an abortion. That would explain the blood running down her legs when they found her.
Oh yeah.
And to hang the body.
Wow. That's the.
And there was no forensics back then. Like no one was.
No. And again, it's a self-contained community, right? And they don't want to lose their state funding either. So are they going to talk about, a staff member murdering another staff member? Or are they going to cover it up and say
they have like an internal police force that maybe could have coaxed into or did the outside?
They didn't really have a police force. They had a security team up there and the staff, the administrative staff. It was doctors that basically were the government of the building. And
so they kind of made
another staff member, don't you think, especially a male staff member? Again, you're talking about the 1920s and 30s when women were called skirts and dames, and you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
A lot of chauvinism. I mean, to be quite honest.
Broad.
I mean, there you go. That story to me, like I say, I can't prove any of it, but it has been put together by a lot of different teams getting the same kind of evidence that put that story together. And it makes a hell of a lot more sense to me than to think that a little nurse who gave up everything, risked her life for very little in return to take care of these people, would hang herself in plain view of those kids.
Yeah, because was 502 her room?
502 was actually a bathroom that served the ward for the patients with tubercular meningitis.
Was there piping in the top?
No.
No. Okay. So that must have been.
There was a light fixture that hung out in front of room 502, and she actually hung herself from that light fixture. Or that's where she was found hanging, was from that light fixture.
So the bathroom was near her room, or was it just like a hostel bathroom, like a common?
It was a common bath. It had it's got, I think, 2 shower stalls and 2 toilets in it, and a little dressing room or changing room with lockers, like what you'd see in a hospital staff bathroom.
So it wouldn't be that in sight, but someone would have eventually found her. To me, it would make more sense to do it privately, maybe off building or somewhere else.
Yeah.
If she really wanted
to, even in room 504, the nurses station, even inside there, I mean, there were shelves and things.
Let's entertain your theory. I guess it happens so quick, right? He probably did the deed, killed her, and he's like, okay, what do I do with the body?
Right.
I can't just throw it in the body chute. I can't just do whatever. I have to figure out an alibi.
I got to come up with a story. Yeah.
That's the quickest alibi. Is just, I don't think he was thinking, okay, from a tree, maybe leave a note or something, but I think he had that night.
He's going to have to carry the body down the steps or get on the elevator with the body, right? And that's not going to go over well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's got to get rid of it right there. And he's got to come up with something quick. So let's hang the body here.
I
And,
think
it's the middle of the night. The kids are asleep, most likely. Because she didn't scream to wake the kids. There was no noise. He could easily have done that.
That's tragedy.
Yeah.
He had the backing of the entire staff.
Yeah. I mean, that like I say, that story, her story, and like I say, it came from paranormal. It's not made up in my mind or anything like that.
Mhm.
This is through paranormal research and a lot of different people collaborating on it. It makes way more sense when you think about all of the factors involved. And, I made a promise to Sarah that first night. If she told me her name, I would tell her story every chance I got. I just told it to you guys, and that gives me a chance to spread it even further around the world now. I'm going to keep that promise. And she means a lot to me. I mean, I married my wife because of her, basically. It's a real important story to me.
And
yeah, that's by the way, how's my audio? I had to make an adjustment. Okay.
You were a little scratchy when you first came on, but you're good now.
Yeah, I think I got static in my dock and it's a piece of crap and it's probably going bad, but I'm sorry. I didn't want to ruin the story.
It's all good.
No, the point I wanted to make was, I forgot who it was. Was it Shaitan, right? We talked to
cryptozoologist.
I think we got into a discussion about ghosts, but then we were like, it might not, because she went to USS North Carolina, and I was like, that's probably a good situation where the ghosts weren't like malicious, right? Like these were people like doing their job, and they were probably like not grumpy or whatever. So I feel like you said, like the true Waverly Hills spirits were most likely not of that nature. So I'm just saying, like there's another place where people have reported like the same situation where the ghosts were, I don't know, friendly but cooperative when they were trying to get EVPs, right?
Right. And that like I say, that's 90. I'd say a good 95% of the spirits you encounter at Waverly. There are some that are different. There are some that are just residual that you won't get a communication from.
Yeah.
You just see a shadow figure that moves through the hallway at a certain time every night or whatever. Whatever kind of residual haunt you can imagine, they have it there.
Yeah.
And there are some that are just a little more malicious, a little less friendly. There's nothing demonic or anything like that there. There are some weird things that happen there, like people lose track of time. I've experienced that, where I was in the lobby, was going to demonstrate an SLS camera to some guests one night who had never seen one, live. They'd seen it on TV, but never seen one actually in action. So I was going to demonstrate it to some guests one night. And I went down to the lobby, and I was the only one in there, and it's pitch black in there. I didn't have any flashlight or anything with me. All I had was the camera. And so I turned it on, was waiting for them to get down there. I started scanning the room, and it picked up a very tall stick figure over near one of the columns that's in the lobby. And, an SLS camera, a lot of times it'll map a doorway or a chair or things like that and, give you a false positive. So I was thinking it was just mapping the column because it was so tall. And I just sat there and watched it for a second, and then it stepped away from the column and started walking toward me. I'm like, okay, this isn't mapping the column now.
Nope.
It's a nope rope there.
Yeah. And then the camera froze. And I tried to reset the camera. And that's the last thing I remember. I woke up at home at 3:00 in the afternoon the next day. I don't remember leaving that night. I don't know what happened after that camera froze.
No.
And, yeah. And that's happened to at least 2 other people that I know of in that lobby. Very similar things have happened, where they have just blacked out.
Has okay, I'm a little fuzzy, but my main question is: has a spirit ever created a spirit, meaning like caused the death and then caused the spirit? And my follow up to that is the homeless guy with a dog. Was that situation?
The homeless guy with the dog. Okay. There are people who will tell you that's nothing more than an urban legend.
Okay, so
William and Sadie.
okay.
There are people who will tell you that.
Okay.
But I used to sneak in that building as a teenager, and William and Sadie ran me out of there when they were alive.
No shit.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah.
God.
So
William was-
the people existed, but
Yes. William was a
spiritually-
homeless
Okay.
Vietnam veteran. At one point, he was staying inside the building on the third floor behind the elevator shaft. There's a little linen closet. There's like an L-shaped room that wraps around the elevator shaft. And it was a linen closet, and William was staying in there. And we would sneak in there. We'd race wheelchairs in the hallway or whatever, because, it was an abandoned hospital full of equipment back in those days. And one night we're in there, and just out of nowhere, this big guy appears. He's like, "Yo, go on, get out of here." And,
Like,
us
get
being
off my
teenage
lawn,
kids,
kinda.
were like, "Yeah!" We took off. We were gone. And you hear him in the background, "Get him, Sadie." And then you hear, woof, 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 woof. And this white German Shepherd looking dog comes flying down the hall toward us, So we run down out the fire escape, and we're gone. It happened another occasion, too, when we were in there, where he ran us out. Now, what I heard through friends that I'd gone to school with, won't give any names here, but I know who two of the guys were. They were in the building one night, and William came out, tried to run them out, and he was beaten to death with a claw hammer, him and Sadie both. And their bodies were put in the elevator shaft down just off of the lobby. And William and Sadie are both still there. Sadie will come up and rub against your leg sometimes. You know how some dogs will just kind of lean on your leg? You'll feel Sadie do that if you're in that room or around that area. You'll hear her claws on the concrete floors. You'll hear her dog tags jiggling sometimes.
That's such a distinct sound, too. The click of the claws. Can't mistake it.
Yep. William has been photographed. I've got a really great photograph I could send to you, Bobby. It's of William. I can't do it right now, of course, because we're doing this. But when we get off here, I can send it to you.
That's cool.
So was this like Sarah's story where, murdered, but was it made to look like he fell down the elevator, or just they wanted to get rid of it?
That there's all kinds of theories about what might have happened. There's actually, I've heard that there was some type of ritual done on the bodies in the lobby. And remember, the lobbies where I've blacked out. And other people have blacked out. And, I can tell you, when we were sneaking in there, you'd go down to the lobby and there'd be melted candles on the floor, and it looked like people had done some type of ceremonies in there.
I bet. Those people are everywhere.
Yeah. And, that's one of the theories, that, the bodies were desecrated. They're in the lobby and some type of ritual was performed. And then the closest thing to them was the elevator shaft right there, where the elevator came down in the lobby. So they put him in the elevator, closed the door. A couple of years later, the owner of the building, or not long after that, actually, the owner of the building had the elevator doors all welded shut. And when they started smelling something, they actually knocked a hole in the concrete block wall on the side of the elevator shaft and found the bodies. So
I guess by that time, all the evidence had kind of melted away.
And these were juveniles that did it. And so, there's not really any record of it because, their juvenile records were sealed. They couldn't directly tie them to it. They felt like they had probably done it. The guys got in trouble for breaking into a body shop not far from Waverly just a few months later, and one of them was found with a bloody claw hammer. And he that was in their little gym bag that they had with their burglary tools, I guess.
Yeah.
And they got questioned, or he got scared and kind of ratted everybody out. But they couldn't prove anything, so you never heard him.
Man, that's crazy. Like, you met the people in real. That's
That's
some
like
Shutter Island shit there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't focus on like Sarah and what was that guy's name?
William.
William.
Like, because you knew the guy. I mean, you weren't like buddy boys with him, but like, it just like blows my mind that you knew the spirit when he was alive. So that's probably one of the first times that's like happened with someone in the paranormal field.
It's definitely unique. I'll tell you that. It's part of why I have such an attachment to that place, and why, you know, it pains me to see what's happening up there right now.
Oh yeah, that would piss you off.
I mean, that's personal. Like, I feel like now I mean, I understand what you said before, but now I feel like it's personal because you grew up going there, and it's kind of like a fondness, right? Like a labor of love kind of situation.
Absolutely.
And, man, yeah, that's, but I don't know how you feel about talking about Waverly Hills, but like that, I feel like the more we talk about it with the Sarah story and the William story, I bet you a lot of people didn't know that. There's people that actually knew spirits that actually were there, but it was during the later days, not the Waverly Hills days. It was the Woodhaven days. Right?
The Woodhaven days.
How is none of this a movie?
Yeah.
There's been a couple of movies filmed up there actually, and they're terrible. There's a movie out called The Death Tunnel that was made by the Booth brothers many years ago. If you've heard of their documentary Spooked, they filmed that while they were filming The Death Tunnel. And it's a terrible movie. I mean, it's as bad as they come. There was another movie filmed just a couple of years ago by the same person we were talking about earlier that we're hoping has a short stay at Waverly, that has a 3.9 out of 10 rating on the streaming services right now, on the streaming platforms. It's some kind of martial arts horror film that he filmed that apparently is, apparently he made a film worse than The Death Tunnel. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh, man.
But I don't know why there's not a legit good producer that has picked up on some of the stories of Waverly and turned it into a real good feature film, because there's so much, people didn't just die there, people lived there. And, it was a place that meant a lot to people in this part of the country. This was the hardest hit area in the United States, especially for tuberculosis, because of
that humidity.
The humidity, the Ohio Valley region here was just like a big swamp, and a perfect breeding ground for the bacteria.
Now, wasn't season fill in the blank of American Horror Story loosely based on some of that?
I think it was. I mean,
I was going to say that.
I think it was loose, very loose, like an
like
element.
I believe they actually wanted to film it at Waverly, to be honest, and weren't allowed to by the owners at the time because they were going to make alterations to the building that they wouldn't have approved of. And
that's the asylum season you're talking about, right?
Well, no, it was the circus one.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, of course, the
the New Orleans one.
Yeah.
What was the? Oh
no, because that really feels like it, like that roaring 20s, 30s Depression era, medicine, kind of like the snake oilish, like treatments that we know now aren't effective, but like they were just doing them anyways, like bloodletting, lobotomies, or like
they did a lot of crazy things at Waverly. They did electroshock therapy there. They did a procedure called thoracoplasty, which is where they would make an incision here at the base of the sternum that went around under the rib cage all the way to the spine and the back. They'd pull that flap of meat back, remove dead tissue around the lungs, and then they'd start cutting out ribs to let the lungs expand. The theory was that, tuberculosis would make the lungs swell and the rib cage would prevent people from being able to move enough air to breathe.
Mm.
So if they removed the ribs, then, the lungs could expand more and they could breathe better. It was fatal like 95% of the time they tried it.
Oh my gosh.
Imagine
But
so.
it was a last ditch thing that was done voluntarily. They would come to a patient, they would say, look, you're going to die within the next 2 days. We can try this if you want. And
you can gut me
patients,
like a
of
deer.
course, that
real quick.
wanted to live would say, sure, try it. I mean, there are people who survived thoracoplasty and, lived a long life. But the problem is they'd be deformed because, without the rib cage to support their torso, they would just kind of curl over like that,
Mm. Wow,
So
that's a mental picture.
I was thinking back to the movie thing. I can't find the movie to save my life, but it was a 90s or 80s movie where this guy helps this other guy and he's a ghost. And I don't know if you took that liberty with the Williams story, man, I think that maybe a series of stories about the ghosts as a movie. And I think that one, maybe she took some liberties with it, but knowing that person and maybe the ghost communicating to you, like that would be a great story. Honestly, you probably wouldn't even have to embellish the stories of the ghosts or the phenomenons there.
No, you don't.
And I could just see it, like just a series of short stories about the ghosts. I think that would be a fantastic movie.
I agree.
Just respectfully, and just having it, you take a tiny little bit liberties to just make it coherent.
Yeah, I agree. I
and not call it like, what is it? What was it called? The tunnel, the death tunnel?
The death tunnel, yeah. Yeah. Like I say, if you want to see a terrible movie, look up the death tunnel and watch it. It was filmed at Waverly and based loosely on some of the stories of Waverly. But they didn't explain some of the tie-ins. Like, for example, there's one scene where a naked bimbo is killed by being doused with molten wax. Okay, now where that came from is there were times when, in the earliest days of tuberculosis, they would encase bodies in paraffin to keep them from being contagious. So, they took that story and then said, okay, well, let's get a naked bimbo and kill her by dousing her in wax.
Oh boy, that was a reach.
I'm watching I got the trailer on another window right now. Just
yeah, it's bad. I'm telling you.
It reminds me of House of Wax with Paris Hilton.
Spoiler alert: the blonde chick gets encased in wax.
Yeah,
but no, William. One of the really cool experiences that my wife and I had, because 2 years ago, her and I, along with a lot of our friends and team members, what they called Ernie's people, were running the overnights up there. And Denise and I would go through the building at the end of the night and lock up. And we always, we had this thing, we're goofy, I guess, but we're passionate about it. We would go through the building and we would say good night to all the spirits that we knew by name as we got to the area where we encountered them. And we go down the third floor because we had to lock up the building from the top down when all the guests were gone. So we're going through, clearing the building, making sure everybody's gone. We get to the third floor and we get ready to head into the stairwell to go up to the fourth floor. And we say, good night, William. Good night, Sadie. And we start up the steps and you hear, good night, y'all.
Shit.
And we both went, oh. We stopped because we did it every night, and we never got a response. But this one night, just clear as a bell, we both heard it. Good night, y'all. And we stopped and we ran back down there. Good night. Say it again. Say it again. And of course he didn't. But I mean, we both clearly heard it. And
was
awesome.
It the voice that ran you out as a teenager?
The same voice, the same.
Come on, Ernie, that's a movie right there. That's a movie.
I'm telling you,
it's like Ghost / I don't know.
One night on an EVP, it was a spirit box. We were in William's room, and my friend Todd Eskew asked, "What's your favorite color?" Now, remember, William was a Vietnam veteran, and we got a real clear response with that same voice that said "camo." We all looked at each other like, "You got to be kidding me right now!"
Must be Army.
I don't think any other branch would. Yep, I don't think any other branch would have said that.
Camo. Hoo-ah, hoo-ah.
Napalm. My favorite color's napalm.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
wild. That's wild. It's the same voice you heard. Just
It was just awesome. I mean, like I say, there's so many spirits up there. There's one named Lois Higgs that's very special to us. A fellow by the name of John Mitchell. There are a lot, and there's so many untold stories still there that need to be uncovered because so much of the history was lost. And that's why I don't like the concept of having a scripted tour to give to the public. I like for people to talk about their own, guides to talk about their own experiences there and talk about, what the known history, of course. But you got to leave the door open for the news stories because there's other spirits there that are trying to communicate too that we don't know their stories yet.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Ernie, I don't know how much you want to talk about Waverly Hills if you want to transition to your paranormal stuff.
Yeah, I had like something in my head of a transition, so it's cool. Just
let us know because I can talk about Waverly Hills.
I'm good to go. I can go all night. My wife's in Indianapolis. I'm good.
So,
my wife's here and she has objections.
Just to be clear, this is Waverly Hills, not Waverly Place, because I looked it up initially and not the results I wanted.
He asked me, I told him it was Waverly Hills. He goes, I'm not getting the results. I'm like, I'm getting the Wizards of Waverly Place. I'm like, I would watch the Wizards of Waverly Hills all day.
Yeah,
that's a completely different.
No, that's the movie name.
The Wizards of Waverly Hills.
No, so
or the Witches of Waverly Hills.
Whoa, connection. That when it was Waverly Hills, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 500? Like staff and patients, right? Was that
There were it was a 400 bed facility. Had a capacity for 400 patients, but there were times during the peak of the epidemic they'd be way over twice capacity with patients. And
patients
they had
staff.
The staff was at times was close to, I'm going to say, I know I've seen numbers of over 120 staff members.
So probably fair to say 500 at any given point when it was Waverly Hills. So that's almost 500 stories you could have. Some of them would be boring, but some of them would be really exciting. But like that's a lot of stories, like you said, to be uncovered and not discovered yet.
Exactly. Yeah. So the place has been beat to death by paranormal TV and documentaries and YouTubers and everybody that's into the paranormal has Waverly on their bucket list, and they've all been there. And all the TV shows have. There have been several documentaries filmed. All the YouTubers have been there. But what gets me is most of them focus on the same old stories. They want to play ball with Timmy. They want to see the shadow figures on 4. They want to hear about the nurse who hung herself. The same stories. But we know of close to 12,000 people that died there. So, there's a lot more stories that haven't been uncovered still.
I think there's little residuals no one's seen yet, just in certain corners of the place. Just little.
Yeah, just little flashes here and there, out of the corner of your eye.
So probably you wouldn't get any EVPs at the shoot because they probably all passed away within the facility, right?
That's how I've always felt. The body shoot is not my favorite place to investigate, but we do get disembodied voices down there. You can hear footsteps down there. There's
people passed away there.
Or maybe someone who worked there and spent a lot of time walking up and down those steps. Maybe somebody had a heart attack walking up those steps because
So that just reminded me. Was it the plague, the Black Plague, when they put bells on their feet?
Yeah.
So maybe it was that like kind of that situation. Did they fully know they were dead when they were
Right.
taking him to the shoot? Right.
Right.
They weren't like
Yeah,
doing
I mean that could
autopsies on
very
them.
well be the case. You know,
Okay.
there could have been, you know, I mean, we're talking about early medicine here. You know, I mean, they weren't necessarily always sure that people were dead when they declared them dead.
Yeah, we're one notch from plague mask at that
Yeah.
point. Tuberculosis, it's one notch above. Like the Civil War was 40 years before, and they're cutting people's legs off after drinking bourbon. So it's not.
They did that in this house right here.
Yeah, just
This was a
take a
Civil
shot,
War hospital.
cut it off.
Oh man, I mean that has some stories.
Oh yeah,
This place is haunted. We just bought this place, and it is.
your
we
actual
love
house.
it. Yes,
Did you get a discount?
we would have paid more. We walked in when Denise and I walked in here with the realtor. We made it like 10 feet in the door over there, and we said we'll take it.
Oh,
We didn't even negotiate the price. We just we'll take it.
That explains why that little head behind you keeps turning by itself.
Does it? Does it? But-
Oh man.
No, it's called the Ditto House Inn. It was built in 1841. You can Google it or find it on Facebook. We got a page for it, the real Ditto House Inn 1841. And we've already got some evidence on it. We've just been in here like a week and a half, and we've already got a video up and a couple of photos that are pretty hard to explain for us anyway. But
Damn, that is real.
it's definitely active, and we love it.
Wow. So how many
Ditto
encounters have you had with different entities, you think?
Here,
Yeah, the Ditto House.
I know we've got a couple of children that they like to play with rocks. We when we first got in here, we were cleaning the place up. We'd sweep the floors and be done. Think we're done with a room. Turn around and look, and there'd be a couple little pebbles sitting right in the middle of the room. And that's one of the stories that's been passed down over the years about this place, is that there are children that play with rocks. And we see a guy in it's like a white union suit, if you know what I'm talking about, like the old pajamas.
Oh yeah,
We see him upstairs. There's a room where a traveling salesman was murdered in like the 1880s for cheating in a card game. And we see this guy in a white union suit up there. That's not it. That's not the real one.
I realized it
That's
once
two
it came
doors
up
down.
there.
That's the Ditto Pruitt house. It's 2 doors down from me. I can show you. We are at 204 East Elm Street, or
Maybe
204
pull
Elm
up the
Street.
Zillow.
Yeah, 204 Elm Street, West Point, Kentucky.
Like an idiot now.
But
That's crazy. Well, I guess that's what you want to do if you're a paranormal
if you're a ghost
guy.
hunter, yeah, you want to
Yeah.
own a historic haunted
Oh,
place.
and you like that term, ghost hunting? Because some people are like, oh no.
Is that
Well,
the little blue
I mean,
house?
That's just the generic term that's given to folks like us. I'm a paranormal investigator, is what I am.
Yeah, but
Uh,
lay people would probably say ghost hunters.
You said
There it is.
okay.
That blue awning is about to go. I'll tell you that right now. There's a robin who's sitting on some eggs in that blue awning. As soon as she lays her eggs or gets her babies weaned from the nest, that blue awning is coming off the house.
You got the river behind you.
Yep. 2 rivers, actually. The Salt River and Ohio River come together there. You see all that junk in the house? That was left for us to clean up.
Oh man.
But what's really cool is we got William Tecumseh Sherman's desk right over here that was left for us also.
Really?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's just history out the yin.
What
yang
kind
right
of
there.
honey hole is that?
It's pretty awesome. Trust me.
Yeah.
We love it.
That was a cool transition from Waverly, though.
Yeah.
And
I
I was going to
I saw the opening there and I went for it, man. It's
Hey.
professional.
No, that's good. Let's talk about you and like your paranormal stuff and what you do.
I wanted to ask a question about, because you have Pac-Man Paranormal.
Yes.
If somebody like me who is responsible with possibly wanting to get into it on an amateur level, maybe because we got a bunch of paranormal groups in Tennessee that I can like tag along with. What's like 3 things I can buy for under $100 that, like a K2 meter, a camera, maybe? And I don't want to.
K2 meters are cheap.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the best device to have is yourself.
Mhm.
And as generic and corny as that might sound, But your gut instinct, that hair standing up on the back of your neck, the cold chills, that's the best indicator that something's around you. But a good recorder, which most phones have pretty much everything you need on them now. They've got good cameras.
I have a Tascam recorder. I've already got one of those because I have the podcast, so I actually have one.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to come up with.
Yeah, just a good voice recorder, a decent camera. You don't have to have the night vision necessarily. Yeah. I like REM pods. A lot of people don't, but as long as you use them in a controlled environment where you're not keying a two-way radio or something like that might set them off, they're pretty good indicators that you might have some activity.
The REM pods?
Yeah. Yeah, they're like a motion sensor.
What is the best? Oh shit, that's what that was. Okay, what's the best middle of the road trigger object that works like for a lot of different stuff? Teddy bear or the cat toy?
Cat balls. The light up cat balls.
I saw that. They recommend the teddy bear a lot, but
the Boo Bears or the teddy bears, they work. I think they're kind of gimmicky, honestly.
Yeah.
But I've seen cat balls where you're sitting like this in an old Victorian era home on a hardwood floor with no breeze, no nothing. I've seen cat balls roll a couple times and light up and things like that when you got activity going on. There you go. That's a Ghost Stop REM pod. It probably costs you about $3,499. No, Ghost Stop is not the cheapest place to buy equipment. I'm not dogging them anyway, but you can find a lot of independent equipment makers out there that will make you pretty much the same product for a whole lot less. I could recommend some, actually.
Boo Bucks has got me.
Boo Bears and Boo Bucks.
Earn your Boo Bucks here. Not to be confused with Boo Bucks from Hooters.
Okay, so spirits to you in your investigations. This is kind of like my paranormal questionnaire is. How do you see them as like orbs, shadows, or just an energy phenomenon?
Energy. That's what a spirit is. It's the energy left over from the living meat suit, when life leaves it. That's what gives this meat suit life, is that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And
when it's visible, right. I believe in that.
It just takes a different form. Sometimes they will appear as shadows. Sometimes they'll appear as real as you and me, even. Sometimes they'll be a ball of light. But, orbs is something that I cringe when I see people posting orb videos because I can debunk 99.9% of them as dust, moisture, or insects. Or even
I posted one for fun once and got crucified. I'm like, calm the hell down. It was just, I'm like, God Almighty.
Yeah. I've actually seen orbs, and a true orb to me emits light. It's not something that's reflecting light in a flash photography or something like that, or an IR camera. It's something that, a ball of light that goes through a room that actually lights up the walls and the ceiling around it, that kind of thing. I've seen that happen. That is a phenomenon that I believe in. But most of the time, it's that, I don't know, it's that hair on the back of your neck or the goosebumps that's your first indicator that there's something going on. And, we all have the ability to pick up on energy changes and things like that. Some people hone it better than others, and they call themselves psychics or mediums or whatever. But we can all sense that. It's a lot of times we just don't know what it is. We'll just say, "Ooh, I got a cold chill." It's cold in here or something like that. You blow it off and don't realize what it might actually be. And it's just a matter of picking up on that. And learning to differentiate when it is just a cool breeze or whatever, or when it's something else. But I feel like they're pretty much everywhere. people talk about, is this place haunted? Is that place haunted? The Kroger down the road is probably haunted.
Just a little.
Yeah, come to think about it, yeah, like especially like on the East Coast, like Virginia or New York City, like come on, how many millions of people have lived and died there?
Right.
Think of all the Native Americans over the course of a million years.
Exactly.
And if animals can haunt, like cats can do it, why can't other stuff? Like it could be like a haunted robin's nest. To circle back to the robin's nest, you never know. I mean, anything could be a spirit. I'll tell you something weird I used to experience when in the subject, and I just experienced when I thought about it. What the cold chills you're talking about? Every time I used to listen to Hank Williams in my truck, I'd get cold chills. I mean, every time, and not like when it just casually was, but when I got into it, like I started paying attention to the song and singing, I get cold chills. I'm like, man, am I haunted by Hank Williams right now? Like it would happen
Senior
like almost 100% of the time.
Yeah, senior and junior.
And Hank Jr. is my favorite singer, but I love Hank Williams. Like he's got that alternate ego, Luke the Drifter.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever heard of him or not, but I listened to that, and like I had all the CDs Walmart sold of it, and I had all the records. But anytime I'd listen to it and just get into it, I'm getting it right now. God Almighty, but it would just come over me. Like whatever, that's cool. Haunted by Hank Williams. Could be worse. Must be why I like beer so much.
You like the song "Midnight in Montgomery," then, don't you?
Oh yeah, Silver Eagle, Lonely
Ghost
Road.
Story.
On my way to Mobile for a big New Year's Eve show.
That's right.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of foolish if you're like I'm kind of like a I don't know, like a
you're foolish.
Kind of approach things with kind of like a skeptical view.
You should.
But I think it'd be silly to just dismiss any paranormal activity at all. Like, I'm a firm believer of energy.
Yep.
Like that, I think that's one of someone that believes versus someone that doesn't believe. You have to believe that we're made of energy. We're a battery. You can put a voltmeter on yourself. So what happens with that electricity and energy when you die? I think that's the $1 million question, honestly, about is it ghosts? Is it spirits? What happens to it?
Yeah, you don't stand next to a dead body and get popped like somebody walked on a rug. It's all still in there somewhere.
Yeah, but it has to go somewhere too.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that someone that's lucid, has a personality, that's it. That's just...
Yeah, everything just ends. It's all just over.
I find that hard to believe. I want a good explanation, and I feel like if you look for it long enough, you'll find something. And
it's a Brooks and Dunn song, by the way. I believe.
I think it's country.
Good song.
Well, from Kentucky to Alabama, I mean, we have to talk about country at some point.
Yeah,
that's right.
I was talking today. I said I want to go there, but it's so far away. Like it's Kentucky. I'm like, I know, but to me, that's 4 days drive.
Oh, come on! It's just like what part of Alabama are you in?
The top part, almost to the Tennessee line.
We're in Tennessee.
Okay,
Valley.
so like 4 hours.
Yeah, we're in Huntsville.
Yeah, you could be here in like 4 hours.
It's not far. I've been to Lexington.
Come on, dude.
I've been to Lexington for a Bama game in a day and back. It's not.
Ernie, it's that toll I can't take.
Yeah.
I hate that Louisville toll.
Don't come across the bridge. There's an alternative bridge. You go to the 2nd Street Bridge.
Oh, okay.
The yellow bridge that's right next to the big toll bridge. Takes you through downtown. You might get murdered, but you won't have to pay a toll.
Yeah.
And then
my great grandparents lived
Gary,
in.
too.
Yeah. Oh, Gary. Good God.
My brother lives in Chicago, so I have to pass Louisville, and then I have to pass Gary to get to his house.
Yeah,
I've been all up in there. My great grandparents are from Vincennes, Indiana, and so like I've been up on the Ponerail. What's it called? That highway from the bottom of
Pennyroyal.
Yeah,
Pennyroyal Parkway.
Yeah, I've been on that many times and top, hitting all those tobacco fields.
Yeah,
off to the right.
Yep,
I've been all up in there. My dad and me took like a two or 3 day sabbatical up there one time when I was in high school, and it's like almost like one of those made for TV movie kind of weekends I had. So it's really stuck. That my area is really stuck in my head. And it was the weekend that Tim McGraw's Everywhere came out. So it's like about traveling down the road and a road trip with my dad. He could write like an after school special about it. Just me and Kevin Costner.
As long as it's not 5 seasons worth.
No, it's not. Tobacco fields in southern Indiana, a lot of corn.
Carolina, barefoot on the beach.
Yeah,
go on.
That song came out that weekend, and he was like, "I'm so tired of hearing it." I'm like, "But it's like we're on a road trip, and that song just came out. It's a song about a road trip. We're father and son in a Nissan, for the God's sake. This is America."
Yeah.
What a Nissan
There's nothing
Frontier.
more American than a Nissan road trip.
A Nissan Frontier with traveling across the Ohio River. Getting fireworks in Tennessee. Yeah. That's a big old sucker. I didn't realize how big it was.
Yep. Big river.
Oh, shit. It's been an hour and 18 minutes. I got one more thing that we have to cover, and it's because we talked about it over text message. But you said you saw Bigfoot at one point.
Yeah.
Is that you?
Yeah.
And that's my favorite subject. So if there's a possibility, I have to hear that one. I just remembered it hit me.
I'll give you a little background first and then tell you about my epic encounter.
Do it.
Denise and I were not Bigfoot believers. We were not skeptics, but we weren't believers. You know, it was something else aside from the paranormal, or another aspect of the paranormal that we just never explored. We didn't deny it. We didn't believe in it. We didn't know, right? One night we were in a cemetery actually looking for Sarah's grave and had a Bigfoot come upon us. We didn't get a visual or anything like that, but we heard some knocks. Denise is real good at picking up on energies, and she's like, there is something watching us from the trees right down there. And, you know, we were like, I don't know what to make of this, you know. So we were leaving that area, and we got to talking. We said, you don't think that was a Bigfoot, do you? And so I started Googling Bigfoot sightings in Kentucky. And come to find out, that very area has a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And the very next weekend, they were having a Bigfoot expedition there where we were at. So we started thinking, maybe we did have a Bigfoot encounter. So anyway, fast forward a little bit. We were doing a live stream for one of the co-hosts of, or one of the part-time hosts of Coast to Coast AM, Connie Willis.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted us to do a show called Ghost Hunters Meet Sasquatch. And so we did this. And we met a guy. It was a 4-day live stream. We met a guy there that they call Squatch Man. His name is Greg Yost. You need to have him on your show sometime. He's incredible to talk to.
He's on my little list.
Yeah. You need to get him in there. He's awesome. We met this guy, and we became friends. And the last day of this 4-day live stream, we were in the forest. We weren't on a live at the time, but Greg was getting ready to move to Washington State at that time. And he said, you know, this might be his last time in that was his forest where he goes all the time. So this might be his last time in the forest. So he said, give me just a second. And he's an incredible guy. He's weird, but he's incredible. Yeah, you know, if you don't spend enough time to give him a chance to prove himself to you, you'll think he's just totally crazy. Because he walks out to the woods, puts his hands up, and he says, my friends, people of the forest, I beg of you, show me something epic. Show me your power. And after he does this, it's not 15 seconds. Trees start falling in the forest all around us. I mean, big trees. Boom, boom, boom. 7 of them. And, you know, we're like blown away. Like, that was awesome, you know.
That'd be wild.
And just, you know, goosebumps, ready to pee your pants, ready to poop your pants. The works. I mean,
tree is like, oh, coincidence. 7?
Yeah, 7 trees. Yeah, it wasn't, and there was no wind, there was no storm. It wasn't like saturated ground, anything like that. They just started falling all around us. It wasn't just like one area. It was like over here, back there, over there. Now there's one over here. You know, I mean, it just boom, boom, boom.
It was like surrounding you. The trees were falling around you. Okay.
Yeah. Well, one of them falls across the road. There's just a 1-lane road that goes back to this stretch of forest, and we were parked right next to that road. And one of them falls across the road and wedges in the bough of another tree. And, you know, we walk over and we're looking at it like, whoa, okay. We're looking at the size of the tree and looking at the root ball, and we're just like blown away. Like, it takes some power. I mean, it'd take a D6 to push this tree over, you know, D6 Caterpillar dozer. And, you know, I don't know what happened here. And so anyway, I was a smoker at the time. Greg was a smoker. And so he and I are standing there in the road, and we light a cigarette. It started sprinkling. So my wife and her daughter, who she was with us at the time, they get in the van. And Greg and I are standing there talking and smoking a cigarette about, you know, how awesome everything had been. And we start hearing a tree shaking. We look up, and in the moonlight, you can see a silhouette of this huge black figure up in that tree that had the other one wedged in it. And he's shaking that tree back and forth like this. Finally, the branch breaks. That other tree falls down, blocking the road, blocking our way out, because it's a one-way road, a one-lane, one-way road. Falls all the way across the road. The thing jumps down out of the tree. You hear a big thud when it hits the ground, and you hear it run off in the forest. And, you know, I started, when we heard the shaking and we saw it, I started beating on the back of the van, and my wife and her daughter got out in time to see it up in the tree and jump down and run off. And we all four witnessed this. And, you know, it's like, this is the most epic thing ever. You know, I mean, this is freaking awesome.
Did it look like Bobby's hat?
Sasquatch.
Yep. It did.
Holy
just
moly.
like
Greg Yost, by the way, right now is in talks with Dr. Squatch Soap Company to become their spokesperson, which I think that'd be awesome.
Fitting.
Yeah, Greg Yost. I haven't reached out to him yet.
Tell him I sent you. He's like a brother to me.
You didn't hear any like cutting, chainsaw, nothing like that. It was just,
these were pushed up by the root ball. I mean, we found several of them, and the root ball.
Did you hear like the splintering of wood when it fell, or?
Yeah, you can hear the, you know, as it's going, you know, because it was falling through other trees and taking limbs of other trees down with them when they came, you know.
Gosh.
And so, I mean, it sounded like a war going off when that started happening. I mean, it was just trees falling everywhere, and we're just like, you know, hoping one doesn't fall on us.
Did you get to look at the trees?
Yeah, yeah. We walked around, and because it was about dusk when it all.
So it was like
happening.
It was like splintered, right? It wasn't like cut. It was like
they were pushed up by the root.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking big root wads. Yeah, there he is.
No, that's his logo.
Oh, okay. Greg Yost has a picture of himself that looks very much like that.
I'll be right back. Sorry.
That's okay. He wants that on a T-shirt.
So there's I forgot his name. There was another guy. He had a picture. The Bigfoot took it was like a sapling or like not a huge tree, but he took it and they flipped it upside down and put it back in the ground like 3 times.
Yeah. We've seen structures out there in the forest with Greg that are just, you know, you cannot explain them by natural means, you know, and they're out in the middle of the woods where nobody would have a reason to be out there doing this, you know. And this is in southern Indiana. It's not up in the Pacific Northwest or anywhere, you know. It's hard to explain away and say it's anything other than some type of huge intelligent creature doing it.
This is like the 3rd time I brought it up, but did you know about the Bigfoot, the American cave system, and like the missing bodies, like kind of the map of it, kind of I feel like that's not I feel like that's not a coincidence. That's like something's going on there.
I think there's definitely something. That's Squatch, man.
There it is.
Journey to the truth.
I just found a picture of him real quick.
As a ghost hunter, as a paranormal investigator, does it I don't know, for lack of better words, does it rock you the same way as like investigating Sarah and like Waverly Hills or other places. When
Absolutely.
you see something, does that fall under your paranormal umbrella? Does it? Like,
Yes.
would you be open
like I
to
say,
research both?
it's something that we never thought about. You know, she's been a paranormal investigator her whole life, but it was always spirits. That's what she, you know, was investigating. It wasn't UFOs. It wasn't cryptids. She grew up not far from where the Mothman was. And she grew up in Buffalo and South Charleston, West Virginia, which is right down the road from Point Pleasant. But, you know, we weren't cryptid hunters. We weren't UFO hunters, anything like that. But when we had that first encounter, it kind of opened our eyes. And now I kind of see where all of those things, cryptids, UFOs, and spirits, they're all kind of tied together. And they all go back to that word that we were talking about earlier, energy.
Yeah, energy.
I don't believe that Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature. I don't believe that UFOs and ETs are necessarily flesh and blood. I think they're as much energy and, you know, it's an advanced intelligence that doesn't necessarily need a physical body to exist, if that makes any sense.
They can go in and out.
It sounds crazy, I know, but at the same time, if you think really deeply, it makes sense.
I kind of like that theory the best. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, because energy, if you believe in science, energy can't be created or destroyed. It's transferred.
Exactly.
Energy has to go somewhere. And it's a really good theory. Scientifically, if you think about it, I just, like, I'm skeptical, but I always approach these things
with an open mind, but
yes,
healthy.
Like, I'm a respectful skeptic. Like, I won't disregard that.
You have to be, because you can't just sit there and say everything is paranormal.
You can't Jim Jones it, right? You can't be drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, and don't just, you know, every time, you know, you hear a noise, oh, there was a ghost knocking back there. No, it's a creaky floor.
I like what you said, Ernie. Trust your senses, because, like, I feel like if the hair is standing up in the back of your neck, or if you go down somewhere and, like, you just feel like danger,
you get the
like heebie-jeebie spider sense going off.
You feel like you walk through a spider web and you go feeling there's nothing there. Yeah. Whoa, what was that? You know.
Yeah, like my personal
we've all experienced those things.
Like,
even the strongest of skeptic will tell you they've experienced those things, but they try to explain them away as something that they're not. And my personal feeling is it's out of fear. It's out of fear of admitting that it might actually be what they don't want it to be. You know, they don't want it to be a ghost or a monster or, you know, anything like that. So they try to explain it away.
I'm okay with it for some reason. I've never had a problem with Bigfoot being paranormal. I kind of like it better than it being a monkey.
Yeah.
It's just out there no one finds. That's my favorite one.
Yeah, it just jumps in a manhole. When it's seen, it just jumps in a manhole or something.
Yeah, it jumps in a portal.
Like what is that? The It Clown?
Well, okay. You know how there have been Bigfoot hunters around since before the great Patterson-Gimlin footage that have been trying to find great evidence. That video that was caught in 1967 of Patty is still the best evidence that anybody's ever got for Bigfoot. And Greg's theory on that, and I believe him, is that that's because they have a sense, they have a way of knowing if there's a human there or a camera there or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And they can transfer into energy form where you don't see a flesh and blood creature walking through the woods. You might see, and I've witnessed this actually in the forest with Greg, something that looks like Predator running through the woods, where it's just like a pixelated something going through there. And it's like, what the hell was that?
The clear silhouette. I've heard people saying they saw that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen they do that now.
Yep.
I've got more than one picture sent to me of an outline of a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That was in a trees, but you look at it and it looks like there's like a Bigfoot there that took off running and the camera caught where it was.
Yeah.
It's like a shape.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that. Zeus Project Sasquatch has one.
So while I was
send it to
looking
me.
that up, quick story
Go
of
for it.
my paranormal experience. Friends of ours, we stayed at the Hotel Duffield. I don't know if you know that place.
I've heard of it.
And I was tripping the whole night. Like
On acid or mushrooms or what?
no,
He
like
was on
no.
drugs.
I had a couple to drink, but
Okay.
Mushroom tea.
like I was hearing noises and stuff. I didn't want to believe it. I just dragging of stuff, water in the walls where there wasn't plumbing. I asked, "Is there plumbing here?" And they're like, "No, there's no plumbing here." And I'm like, "Why am I hearing water then?" Like, it's almost I don't know. Like sometimes your mind can play tricks on you, but then sometimes, like I think it was just circling back to the point. Like people sometimes don't want it to be true because the thought of reality would be even more worse.
I mean, there's people talk about how children are more apt to see things and they're more open to it and things like that. Well, most of us as kids, we might have an experience. We might see someone in our closet at night, right? Or have an imaginary friend, right? And our parents will tell us there's no such thing as ghosts. Go to bed. You'll be okay. And you're conditioned to think that wasn't a ghost, And so, you grow up with that belief. No, that's not a ghost. There's no such thing as ghosts. Mom and dad told me that from the time I was born, So it gets kind of bred out of people, that openness or belief that it could exist. And I think that carries on into a lot of people's adulthood and they get labeled skeptics. But in reality, it's just out of fear or conditioning to make them think that.
I've always hated the no such thing. My dad used to say that. I'm like, that's no fun. I would always say that. I'd have the same response. What's no fun to think there's no such thing?
Right. It's like saying there's no such thing as Santa Claus. Come on.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's Santa Claus.
I mean, there was a Saint Nicholas, but the flying thing, who knows?
Here's that silhouette I was telling you about. If
you
look at, you got the, like it's translucent, but it's there at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Imagine being in a place that is reputed to have a lot of cryptid activity. The place is called the Gates of Hell.
There it is.
That's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see that. And never experiencing anything like that, personally. And you're standing in the middle of the woods at dusk, just you and your wife, and you see something like that about 20 feet from you go all the way across the hillside in front of you and down over into the woods, and you can actually hear it. But it looks like that. That is a weird feeling.
Kind of clear.
And I think most people, in my mind, from what I've gathered is, and some scientists have talked about it, the human mind is a completionist. You put a paragraph in front of you with no vowels, and most likely you'll be able to interpret it. Yeah. I think that's what's happening here. Like the mind can sometimes play tricks on you because you doubt your senses at that point. But then you have to come to the realization is, okay, you see it, but now you're hearing it, and then maybe you hear something it's manipulating. I mean, 3 of your senses, one maybe you can brush off one of your senses. But if it's like more than one, like smell, like vibration, like it's hard to refute if more than one of your senses.
That's the same way that we look at paranormal evidence. If you've got a REM pod, which is basically a round plastic box with an antenna sticking out of the top of it that lights up if something gets within a close proximity to that antenna, right? If you're sitting in a room and a REM pod goes off, you can't say you've got activity because that REM pod went off. But if that REM pod goes off and at the same time a word comes up on your Ovilus, or you get an EVP, or your K2 meter spikes or something, you get you can triangulate 3 different pieces of evidence
Sensors.
at once, or sensor perceptors, or whatever you want to call them, then you got something. And it's the same thing, as what your theory was. If you got 3 of your senses picking up on the same thing, then it's hard to deny that. And there are times when all 6 senses might be reacting.
That's get your third eye going.
Yeah.
Here's some of that tree roots in the tree action here.
Yeah.
See, there's two trees got their root ball way up in the tree. Like, how the hell?
I don't
In
see
Colorado.
that. How do you do that? No, I'm saying, how do you do that? Even if you had like a cat or a crane or something, like that would almost be difficult with all the terrain and stuff.
That's Colorado up in the aspen trees. That's
right, to mechanically do it. I mean, to do
the physics of getting a piece of equipment there to begin with are just not logical.
No, that's just silly.
This is all Zeus Platt from Project Sasquatch for people watching.
Yeah,
it's not my stuff. It's Project Sasquatch. He's a good guy. I got an episode with him.
Yeah, he's got some great structures that he's located out there.
You heard of him before?
I have.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap, how are all these people just coming to me? And I reach out to him, but the people that will talk to him, why were you talking to me? I am nothing. I have 200 followers.
Well, it's hard to find a place where like someone like me can sit down and talk for 2 hours like we've done here, or almost 2 hours now, to someone who will listen and not, just question everything you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
So those of us who do these kinds of things, it's pretty easy to get us to come on and talk about the stuff that we've experienced and stuff.
What's funny? That's the exact same thing Zeus said.
Yeah.
He said, everybody else tries to break shit down. You just sit here and talk. I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, we can break it down. If you want to break down any aspect of anything, I'm perfectly willing to have a legitimate, open debate or conversation about any aspect of anything that I ever have experienced or investigated or whatever. What I don't like is people who just have this attitude that I don't believe in that shit, and you're crazy.
I think that's disrespectful, though. Because
hear me out. At least hear me out and listen to my side of it and why I feel this. I'm not a crazy person. I'm not a stupid person. I'm a pretty intelligent person who actually happens to be pretty grounded in most ways. Yeah. But I've experienced so much in the 20 plus years I've been doing this stuff. I've seen so many things happen and so many things that aren't supposed to happen or exist that I have a hard time questioning the possibilities of anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a healthy way to look at the world.
I think that's outside looking in. I think that's more of you're comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And more, maybe I think a lot of people are deathly scared of unknown.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit the box, oh my gosh, your life breaks down, right?
Right.
Yep. I think that comes part of traveling and reading and just being learned in that respect. Like doing the scientific method, right?
Right.
Like just going through processes and steps.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'll help you out. Ernie, you'll probably have a laugh of what we do for a living. So Bobby and I, we pretty much do the same job.
Yeah.
We're IT guys.
IT guys? Okay.
So I don't know.
I need someone to build me a website.
Yeah.
I really do.
I can do it. WordPress, but website nonetheless.
Will it look professional? Because I had a WordPress website years ago called True Paranormal that my sister put together that looked like just your cut and paste, templates stuff.
Yeah, they're templates, just themes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Not like, I mean,
I'm
that's
sure it's gotten
what
better
is.
than it was back in 2000 when I built that website. But
well, it's a little bit better than that.
And there's a lot of more tools and templates nowadays.
And they got sliders and little widgets you can add.
cool stuff.
Yeah. You can if you pay for it, you can get crazy stuff.
Yeah.
The free stuff's good enough for me. Mine's just a theme called podcast.
Yeah.
Just has it structured like little episodes.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to use GeoCities over here, so I don't know.
We're Denise and I, Pac-Man Paranormal. We're getting ready to start doing paranormal investigations. Just talk to the city here of West Point. There's a site here called Fort Duffield, which is an old Civil War fort.
No.
And we're getting ready to start hosting investigations at the fort. And we're going to build a website for that includes booking and some information about the fort. Just a basic site to do ticket sales for those investigations that has some information on it. And we're both technically challenged. So we're like, well, we need to figure out who can do this. And
well, the good news is merch and stuff like that. They have actual like drag and drop applications.
Yeah.
Just tie your bank account to them or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that would be nice. But
yeah,
we'll talk after the show, maybe, Bobby.
They're called widgets.
Okay.
What I don't want to like put myself out there and be like, I can do it. There's a lot of trial and error because some stuff works different than the other, but I'm just going to put my mind, make something happen.
You guys are IT guys. You can do this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or know somebody that can.
Or know someone. Yeah. Or like one of those guys.
Right.
I was trying to look up this Fort Duffield.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure it has a different vibe than Waverly Hills, huh?
It does. It's an earthen fort. It's a well-preserved earthen fort. It doesn't have like stick walls or anything like that. It's just mounds of dirt, walls of dirt. And they didn't actually ever see a battle there, but it was a very crucial fort because it guarded the supply lines. The Union, when they were marching south, West Point was a major transition point they would come down the Ohio River by steamship. The Union supplies and soldiers a lot of times would be moved by steamship to West Point, and then they'd be put onto wagons to go on south, like for the Battle of Nashville and points south of here. And so that fort was, deemed as a very crucial place. A lot of people died. There were like 61, 62 people that died up there during various sicknesses like typhoid or yellow fever, whatever. I haven't got all the specs in my head yet exactly how that went down, but we're going to do all the research necessary to give a good tour and put on some good investigations up there. But it's a really cool place.
Is this it?
That's the sign for it. That's actually, if you look to the left of that a little bit, go a little bit further left, and then go up. And you go up and then back to the right just a little. You might be able to see my house through that gap in the trees, the gray house back there in that gap in the trees.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I'll wave to you because you're right over there.
in the daylight for some reason.
Yeah. How's it daylight there? It's dark out here. But it's a really cool site. This little town has been kind of forgotten by time, and it's a real poor town. But there is so much history here in this town that it's a place that we're hoping to help bring it back to life, put it on the map, so to speak.
There's a lot of that going around nowadays. These stuff that got forgotten, people are bringing back. We just talked to a lady from Huntsville, Tennessee last week that bought and restored an old jailhouse. It looked about the size of your house, but it was built like a castle.
Is that Miranda or Chris?
I was Chris. It wasn't motorcycle. Was it motorcycle Miranda?
It wasn't Miranda. Yeah, yeah, they're good friends of ours.
She's going to come on next. Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah. I like Chris. Chris is a smart lady. She's a doctor. She's a very smart lady. And
I meet these people and I want to be like, I'm your best friend now. I mean, we're friends now. We're all
I'll tell you what you guys need to do. Every year they have a paranormal, what does he call it? I guess paranormal meet and greet at the Old Stone Jail in Franklin, Kentucky.
Mhm.
Chris and Miranda always come down. The Black Wolf Paranormal comes down. Night Stalkers Paranormal. Barry Gaunt and Billy Sims from the Octagon Hall. I mean, a lot of teams from the Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Indiana region, Ohio even,
Mhm.
kind of converge down there, and we just hang out at the Old Stone Jail, which is a haunted place where Denise and I actually got married. And you can do a lot of networking and hear a lot of cool stories, make a lot of good friends and connections in the field at that meet and greet.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we've developed family from those things. I mean, people that
I had no idea
like
how rich
brothers
it was in this area.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many teams and locations even right there in that general, right around Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama. There's a lot going on there.
That's been all my guests for like the last 3 months.
Yeah. We just filmed 2 weeks ago at Waverly Hills with Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gadalari, Malia Maglino, and Kevin Ott. The show is called Haunted Discoveries. And they have now got 3 seasons in the can. Actually, today they just wrapped for season 4. They've got 4 seasons in the can. It's finally starting to be released in October on some of the streaming platforms. But it's called Haunted Discoveries. And they filmed every episode in Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana. I think they've been down to Alabama, West Virginia. I mean, it's all right here in this general area. And they've got so many more locations still on the map that they're going to be going to. They went to the Scott County Jail that Chris and Miranda run.
I was shocked. I was like, really? That's what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm wasting my time going to work every day. You're living in a haunted jail.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair at all.
It's cool.
All right. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. We're hitting 2 hours. I'm getting hungry, and Andrew's got the general waiting on him.
Yeah.
But this has been
I
amazing.
got General Sherman over here in the corner wanting me to get off, turn the light on.
We'll all have our orders, right?
That's right. I've got to call Denise too. She's off work by now, so I'm sure she's
tell him
at the
thanks for
hotel
leaving
wondering why I
Savannah
haven't
intact.
called her.
Did you hear me? I said, tell him thanks for leaving Savannah intact.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Thanks for stopping at Atlanta, dude.
Yeah, and Huntsville made it too.
Saving Florida too.
Well, did they really save Florida? That would have helped.
No, they didn't.
I mean, look what it did. Look what you did. You could have burned some off like Bermuda grass in the fall.
Maybe that would have helped.
We wouldn't have all these Florida man stories. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Well, all right, Ernie. We just became best friends. You have no choice now. You're one of the
Okay, I'm down with that, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Paranormal groups. I'm telling you, the paranormal groups are the most fun guests. I'm addicted. That's the reason I'm changing my podcast name soon to the Caffeinated Cryptid.
I like it.
By the way, because I'm doing a lot of paranormal stuff. It's going to be called the Caffeinated Cryptid with Bobby Dizzle. You know,
I like it.
Just to niche up. Check this out before we go. I'm having a bunch of logos made by somebody in a third world country that I don't know where, but this is one of the ones.
The Philippines. They do that.
Yeah.
Or it could be a Nigerian prince.
This person's very impatient, whoever it is. I'm like, calm down.
I like
this
that.
This is one of my logos.
I like it.
I think it's amazing. I was like,
yeah.
It took her like 6 revisions to.
I feel like you could sell coffee with this too. Like this could be
you can
have a little coffee shop.
Yeah.
Don't get ahead of me, Andrew. Don't think I didn't know. Don't think I didn't realize it was a sponsorship.
If you open a coffee shop, I need a drink called the Pac-Man Percolator or something like that, and it's gonna be like 3 shots of espresso in it.
Here's gonna be the main logo though.
I like it.
Look at that.
I like it.
I'm getting her to turn the Sasquatch chocolate on that one though, because the black doesn't pop with all the brown.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it though. And here's here's going to be the where you at? Yes, I know. Entertaining TV. I know nobody's watching right now.
It's captivating.
Yeah, but this is stuff. But this is going to be like my little. That's going to be my. What's the word? Avatar. The profile
Avatar.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that
It's
on
gonna
your
be like-
hat.
Yeah, I can't wait. That's not the logo of Sasquatch I gave her, but she found one and put it on there, and it kind of works. I'm like, whatever.
I like it. That's the pose that he struck after he jumped down from
Yeah,
breaking that tree off that Greg and I watched.
she
Kinda
found
jumped down
another
like,
one.
Ah!
Yeah, like take that, you
I
damn
did that.
mortals.
And then he ran off.
She sent this other one, and I'm not sure what this Sasquatch is doing.
He looks like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he's trying to like meditate or something. I like the other one better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this reminds me of like a Sasquatch trying to protest like conservative politics or something. Like, actually, I identify as a gugwai.
Or he's like, I don't know.
Or
He's
he's
like,
saying,
that's a
come
bad
at,
call, Rev. Come on.
or he's saying,
Yeah.
come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Where's the flag? Where's the flag? Say that a lot as a Bama fan. Where's the flag? All right.
You guys have flags?
No. Unless we play in Knoxville. There's plenty.
Just
All right,
saying.
now you're gonna make me mad, Andrew. I mean it again. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, Ernie. Thanks, Andrew, again. Peace out.